I've got to be a little bit more careful now how I go about saying things if I'm going to say them on Facebook or YouTube or wherever where the world can see it. And at the same time, I don't care because everything I've lost everything. Well, what a day it's been, eh? Um, just exhausted. It's just exhausted. I mean, it's difficult to 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 get an intelligent to find an intelligent conversation somewhere. Yes, someone I was someone said that to me. Yeah, that's Eastbourne. Now I've got to be very careful how I say this because how I say things because anything I say that might sound offensive, it's not aimed at. Obviously, I'm not going to mention the people that I have spoken to today or in the future, um, because there are certain people I've got to be careful how I say things and how I go about it to protect them and to protect myself, etc., etc. So I'll be, what's the word? Diplomatic, is that what the word? So, so when I say, for example, yes, there's a chap who once said to me, he whispered to me in Weatherspoons, he's a qualified, retired, um, uh, what is he? He's a retired professor of something or other. And he once said to me in Weatherspoons years ago, it's difficult to get an intelligent conversation. I said, yeah, I know what you mean. it and just because he's a professor, that doesn't really mean anything. Um, I can have an intelligent conversation with him, obviously, but it's not always about. I mean, he bought into the whole, you know what thing, yeah. That MI5 operation, covert operation, and well, you know that there are just some people who are asleep and some who are awake. So just because someone's been in the indoctrination institution doesn't mean anything. Um, and I'm in a very sort of, I am a set apart one. I am a chosen one, if you like. Call a spade a spade. Um, and there are many videos on YouTube about this, and it's very painful. We go through very painful periods of long, prolonged periods of loneliness. Well, not loneliness, because we're not actually there were way more people like me who are awake than not now. Um, but the people that are like me are far and wide apart. Um, although I have met people that are awake, I'm talking about the chosen, set apart ones, the targeted individuals, the people that really are living in the faith, as opposed to lukewarm Christians and all of that. Yeah, and all of that. Anyway, but I got quite angry earlier because I was in Weatherspoons and the chap who is said he's a Christian, and he's shocked at Darren's behaviour, my partner's behaviour, saying, you know, I thought he was a Christian man. Um, and I don't want to be, I've got to be really careful how I say this because, you know, if I say how I feel, then it gets back to them. I want to, you've got to be, I want to be brutally honest, but I don't want to be, obviously, I, there are some things I can only say to Darren that I can't say to anyone else because I have my bond with Darren. I've opened up to Darren like a book, and his ex-Sikh Christian friend turned evangelist. Oh, she turned funny. Actually, she smiled at me when I was speaking to this gentleman in the co-op. And she said, "Oh, she said years ago, Darren won't tell you anything. Well, I've opened myself up like a book, and there are things that I can only ever say to that one person that I have opened up myself up like I've opened up my soul. And I know you shouldn't do that with anybody, and trust has to be earned. I gave Darren my trust. I've done that with lots of people though, but Darren made me feel safe to do that. And I've never done that with anyone before. And why wouldn't you if someone makes you feel that safe as a friend and they're not trying to get anything from you and they're a strong believer, and they strengthen your faith as well. So but I naturally I am very open anyway, but there are things I've told Darren that I wouldn't tell. Well, you know, when you're in a bond with someone, you there are things you just won't, even on your YouTube channel, even when you're being brutally honest, because you don't want to, you know, if it's about other people, oh, so and so, oh, you know, there are still some things I won't say on my YouTube channel because it could be very, well, anyway, I'm an intelligent person. I don't need to explain that, but unfortunately, there are a lot of stupid people out there. So, evidently, if I was to write a book about everything that's happened to me, then people would be like, "Nah, you're making that up." And then anyone who's living in this day and age would be like, "No, I can believe anything." Truth is stranger than fiction. But anyway, no, I've yeah, so I have to talk like that. There are some thick people out there, unfortunately. Um, they're called trolls. um, but then even the ones that are supposedly educated can be demented, which is why I'm gonna, you know, this is what I've been talking about, the landlady, this solicitor, and I've had a bit of a day of it, so I need to put my head down in a while because I am shattered. But I've got to fork out for a private solicitor. I was on the phone to the Solicitors Regulation Authority because the response I got in an email, yeah, this solicitor, he's covered his tracks basically, but of course he has. But you only have to read the online reviews of Mr. Holden, and I expect someone out there will probably ring up the office and say, "Hey, is this Mr. Holden? There's a woman called Bryony, and she's making a YouTube video, and she's talking about you." What? Go away. I can imagine it actually. I think he probably knows about my YouTube channel anyway because of the landlady. So by the time this goes out, Mr. Holden, if you get wind of this, it doesn't make any difference anyway. It really doesn't, because you've done the damage. I've had I've had abuse from hotel managers, but it was the one that knocked on my door. I know I didn't let him in when I was wearing a towel. He saw me wearing a towel. This is to the poison pen letter, nutcase, pervert, who's obsessed with my breasts and the idea of Darren putting his hand down his trousers. I never said that either. I'm talking about the poison pen letter writer who said that I've got teeny tiny titties and that Darren likes putting his hand down his trousers. Yeah, nice. I never said that. I said that Darren had accidentally shared Facebook photos of women in lingerie. There was nothing about pornography. Anyway, and all men look at women, if you get pictures of, not that I'm condoning it, because scripture says you only have to look at another woman, and you've committed adultery in your heart, which is these are serious sins, by the way. But anyway, I'm going to get to Darren in a minute, because this thing about him doing a Bible study with his friend in Wetherspoons, well, there could have certainly been, he could have at least stuck around while my sister's support worker was swearing at me for refusing to call my sister a man. But no, 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 he left me alone to get abuse and a threat. And he didn't even do anything when the police sexually assaulted me in front of him. My breasts were exposed in front of Darren, in front of these two perverts. And one of these lovely ladies at the Let Women Speak, as I said, you can go and see the video of me speaking at Hyde Park. It's on YouTube. Now, one of the Let Women Speak, that's the Party of Women. One of the campaigners said I should go to the Freedom of Speech Union and claim for sexual assault. I'm a rape victim. Remember what I was saying about Hove Crown Court? And I know I sound like a broken record, but I put someone in prison for attempted rape and 2 years in prison and 10 years on a sex offenders register at Hove Crown Court in 2011. And Darren, be like Nick Tenconi. That's a real man. That is. I shook his hand. He's a real Christian. He's going to save this country. And I know we don't use the word Christian, but for the sake of what people know what you're talking about when you say Christian, and they know that we're all singing from the same hymn sheet, literally. It's just that Darren goes to the original Hebrew Aramaic scriptures, and he brought me to the name of Yahweh, which is the name of our Heavenly Father that was removed nearly 7,000 times from scripture. Anyway, so if Mr. Holden is watching this, if he will probably know about the YouTube channel because of the demented landlady. And so I've been on the phone to the Solicitor'S Regulation Authority today because of this pathetic response that I got. It's very serious because he's exploited me. This is a solicitor who knew my anxiety, who knew my suicidal states, who knew I was on severe disability, who knew I'd been locked out of the house, who told me not to worry about my valuables. She locked me out of the house in July of last year. July of last year? Then 3 weeks later, Dr. Webborn rings me to say I've lost a lot of blood in the Marine Parade Hotel and that I need a blood transfusion and that it could be life threatening. And today I've been down to the doctor's surgery. Ah, what a fiasco. Welcome to Eastbourne, though. The Eastbourne has got a terrible reputation. I was telling the people at the Solicitors' Regulation Authority in Birmingham, I said, yeah, I know Birmingham's become like a shithole at the moment with the bin bags everywhere. The bin bag, the rats and everything. Oh, God. So their council's not very good. But I said here on the southeast coast, there is something about people, especially there's something about Eastbourne and Hastings people. And I said I used to come here in the 80s, and my mother was always having a problem with rude people. Well, not all the time, but I remember those times. Um, Actually, to be honest, it could happen anywhere, but there are people who like come down here from where it was Newcastle, and they come here for the weather. They can't stand the people here. They come here for the weather because this is the sun trap of the south. You come to Eastbourne to get the best weather, basically. But I've spent most of my life down here. I and this is the thing is, people are brain dead in the pubs. Okay, Weatherspoons, you're going to get it because people want a cheap drink, don't they? But there's a lot of drugs and alcohol and that kind of thing. I don't drink, smoke, or take drugs. I've tried cigarettes and they're disgusting, and I've got OCD, so I don't even like smoke coming near me. I've tried alcohol. I'm intolerant, it's poison. So if you ever see me buying alcohol, you know that I'm going to attempt suicide because if you see me buying alcohol, it means I'm going to go up to Beachy Head. It means Dutch courage. It is poison. My late mother used to give me a cup of wine in the high chair because it's good for a baby. A little bit of wine. She brought me up the way they do on the continent. Children are brought up to have a glass of wine with their dinner. Like a sensible, normal human being. Um, the mafia, the same mafia that's supposed to protect us, are also trafficking vulnerable people, and they want you to take their drugs. They're also the same people that have $1 billion industry of dangerous pharmaceuticals. I don't take those either. So I'm bloody amazing. Yes, I am. I'm a survivor. Um, and I've got to just keep going forward in the name of Abba Yahweh. I've got to do what I've got to do. Obviously, I've been literally physically beaten, assaulted, and pulled around. Um, and that's been pulled around as part of this narcissistic abuse by people who the thing about being a chosen one, you're a targeted individual because they're afraid of you. They are terrified of you. If you're a chosen one, the narcissist is terrified of you, what you might say. Now, we know that the enemy goes round seeking whom he may devour. He comes as an angel of light to seek whom he may destroy, devour, all that, whatever. And unfortunately, you do get a lot of these devils in Christian churches preaching the Bible, and yeah, I'd say that's the most disturbing thing, and that would finish me off. The very thought that someone who's come along who says they love you. Now, the thing is, this is a difficult one because my partner said he loved me, saw me as like a wife, wanted a child with me, very intense, very full on, and I've had to disassociate, which is the equivalent of my sister's transgender thing nonsense, because the locum said you and your sister need trauma-based therapy. But instead they indoctrinated my sister with this trans whatever thing, the trans thing, yeah. Now, the let women, I'm a bit upset because I was a bit upset because I wanted, I know everybody needs to be able to speak, but I did feel a bit frustrated when that black lady said you could get on with it. Because I'd already timed myself, and I find it difficult with women because women can be very cliquey, and that some of these women are very bolshy. And I'm not attacking I'm not attacking the let women speak. Not at all. I'm not attacking them. It's very difficult to speak anyway, but they can't see my agony. They can't see my pain. I can see my sister's pain. I'm the only person who knows what's going on in my sister, because only my mother knew mine and her pain and this acute attachment to my mother. And with my middle sister, it's manifested as a trans I think I'm a man thing. With me, it's obviously I don't identify as a man. I identify as a child. And so I have to, and Darren knows this, I have to zone out. I've never spoken to anyone about this. Nobody knows about this. Only Darren does. So you could say I identify as a child. Now, if I was to wear bows in my hair and a party dress, you know, I did actually once do this a few years ago. I had Baby Spice little pigtails here and a Scotsman. I think the Scottish are supposed to be brave, but I think I've scared a few Scotsmen. Um, this Scotsman in a pub said, "Oh, mummy," and I went absolutely mental at him. I think that was at the I think it was at the Duke of Devonshire pub. I was with Darren, and Darren probably thought, "Oh gosh," this was about 8, 9 years ago, and I said, "I haven't even seen my father." Now I did actually look a bit little girlish. He said, I'm sorry," in a Scottish accent. Um, I think he was genuinely scared of me because I went back up to him and I slammed my hat. But that was an out of character thing. Um, I haven't done it since. That was very out of character. But it's a build up. It's a build up of stress, as what's the name said. And but I do actually identify as a child. Now they've made it a crime that if you see a man dressed with a silly looking party dress on and bows in his hair, and I did actually see a video of a man on YouTube and he did look ridiculous, more ridiculous than me. Now, I've been called a freak before, and it's fine because I did look like a freak, and that was the whole idea. It was my 21st birthday. I did it. I don't know what. I was off my head, looking all punky with that hair, and it was my 21st birthday. But I was emotionally, yeah. Now, I expect someone to call shout out freak. Um, Funnily enough, no one actually called. I think people were scared to call me a freak at the adamant thing, but I did look ridiculous. But that's the whole idea. The adamant thing. Now, when I wore the stockings and suspenders and the chain bra, and the whole idea was I was deliberately trying to look as outrageous as possible and fighting anxiety. I had so much metabolism. I wish I had it now. Um, I was that anxious that I'd run to the loo and because I knew that I was going to walk out the door looking at 6'7" with big hair, looking like a drag queen, stocking suspenders, 7-inch platform, 6'7" with big hair and heavy makeup and eyelashes that were that long, fake eyelashes, and and it was deliberate, and the whip and the chains and all of that, and I couldn't eat anything, and then I'd go to the toilet, and without being graphic, everything would fall out of me, and I would see my abs because of the anxiety, because I knew that I was going to walk out the door looking like this crazy, and people would say, "Do you want a drink? I'm going to go and get an alcoholic drink." No, 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 no. Cup of tea's fine. So I'm a teaaholic. It's called this. So people are probably wondering, how the hell do you go out the door looking like that without drinking alcohol or something? It's called disassociation. Now, I haven't had a psychiatrist or anybody to explain this to me. I haven't, for all the YouTube videos that I watch, and I watch thousands, I haven't even seen a YouTube video about this. I am telling you that this is what the Let Women Speak need to hear. But I haven't actually said this. I have never actually said this. And I think it's something people do need to hear because I mean it. I genuinely understand the spirit behind what my sister. Now, I don't know what it's like to feel like you're in the wrong gender, but I know my sister well enough because she's my sister to know her emotions. Obviously, I don't know. She never talks about them, so I kind of don't. But I kind of do because my mother affirmed it to me, and I said that is exactly what I've got. So my sister's been diagnosed with dissociative disorders. She told me that, and I just thought to myself, yes, I knew it. I felt relief hearing her say that. But that was before her support worker then swore at me because I refused to call her a man. I hugged her. I was in tears. I was in shock. Now, I was hiding all this anger at the fact that Bronya, my sister, has hurt me because she's got rid of things that were meant to come to me from my mother's flat. And Humphrey and Co. let me down. My mother's Jonathan Cook. Well, what do you want me to do about it? Oh, well, oh, tell me about it. The number of people I've had to deal with so much on my own. So, and I'm doing it all on my own, completely on my own, which is very, very confusing because all these years, the past 9 years that I've been with Darren anyway, I've been telling people I don't know what I'd do without Darren. Darren has helped me with this, that, and the other. And now I'm confused because I'm thinking, he hasn't done anything. He's left me to sleep rough. I've cooked for him, been locked out of the house. I've got to get. He's not looking up law firms to help me. I'm doing it all on my own. Oh, I've gone off my own back to find a private lawyer because this demented lunatic solicitor, Mr. Holden, who wrote an email to me saying I have a full legal aid certificate to commit the landlady to prison to seek damages, because the judge said he could put her in prison, and then he told me to go to Mr. Holden. Mr. Holden's messed me around. The local MP has messed me around. Council have messed me around. Now this doctor's surgery. Bloody Dr. Caro coming out of the office. And I said, and he's like, so he remembers it's very strange that he hadn't seen. I've only briefly met Dr. Caro, but he came out and he was like looking at what the receptionist was doing, and I thought, he's like the GP, Dr. Stewart, who's now retired, texting me to say that I spent 4 hours with a Dr. Jones who did nothing when I was locked out of my supported accommodation on news of my father's death. And Andy Canfield, the Lansdowne hotel manager, said we get complaints about that place all the time. He contacted head of police. And I was saying to this receptionist at the doctor's surgery, I said, it turns out it's such a small world that he's in prison for 7 years, and he was on the local ITV news. It was my eldest sister's friend that was on the ITV news, Louise, saying how he defrauded her. And it's just very bizarre that a hotel manager who intervenes on my behalf has actually stayed in my eldest sister's flat without even telling. I didn't know that he knew my eldest sister, and now he's in prison. It's weird. And he intervened when I was locked out of the flat on news that my estranged father of 30 odd years had died. And my eldest sister illegally went through my father's things without me. So I've had so many illegal things done to me. I was saying to this receptionist at the doctor's surgery, I said the Swan advocate said that my sisters illegally went through my father's things without me. I said, you're all complicit, because I said the care coordinator who placed me in that flat worked for the lighthouse practice. She was sacked. She placed me there. And Dr. Stewart, you're telling me he's retired now, just like Dr. Jones, and he texts me to say you spent 4 hours with a doctor who did nothing, when I was sat there in my nightwear saying I've been locked out of my flat. I mean, these people. I mean, these are grown adults. This is a doctor's surgery, for frig's sake. And they couldn't organise their tiny bottom holes. And Dr. Caro, he'd said to I said, he's just come out of the office. What is he doing? Because I'm being told, 1 minute I'm being told that he's going to write a letter to the council on my behalf, and then I'm being told by a boy on the desk yesterday who looked like he didn't want to be there, who was falling asleep while he had his head in his hands, and then he was walking out into the back room. God only knows what he was doing. Then he comes back. Dr. Caro is saying I said, what? Who is it who sent me this text message? It's funny that it's got no doctor's name at the end, because it's saying You need to refer yourself to Community Connectors. I've already said that this woman from Community Connectors, Kylie, I recorded the call. She hung up on me. She sounded like she didn't want to be doing the job. Oh, well, we're not a crisis service, and hanging up. I said I was for an hour and 18 minutes on the phone to the council before they hung up on me. And wait for it. Yes, I'll come to the local MP office in a minute, Josh Babarundi. I would love to know who it was, by the way, who told you about my YouTube channel. The fact that you'd never even met me before, you ignored an online application in 2022 when I self-funded the Cavendish for 9 months with Backpip. And you didn't even respond to an online application, the Chief Financial Officer that I put on notice under common law, the Councillor Robin Maxted, Councillor Stephen Holt. Are you on your oaths? You're sworn in on oaths, and all you just keep lying because I've been lied to again today. And I'll come to that in a minute. I spoke to a boy at your office, your MP office. I've emailed District Judge Harper. I've said, in polite words, are you sworn in on your oath like Josh Babarundi? Because he's not doing what you've told him to do. And I've been homeless since July last year, throughout 9 years of orchestrated homelessness, being beaten to the ground by a firearms officer with a taser and a gun when I showed photographs of bed bugs crawling on me, when I was attacked several times by convicted criminals in a halfway house. I've had it. So anyway, one at a time. So basically, yeah, I was trying to stay calm. So Ewan Morrison, the MP caseworker, didn't get back to me 3 months ago. And I said to the Solicitors Regulation Authority today on the phone, I said 3 times I asked the MP caseworker to speak to Mr. Holden. And he said, yes, he will still represent you. Bearing in mind, this was after he had emailed me to say I have a full legal aid certificate to commit the landlady to prison and to seek damages. 3 times I mean, it was only a week or two ago that a new appalling review has been added to Bird Eye about Mr. Holden. And complaints have gone to the Law Society, and I don't know how he manages to keep this law firm going. Worse, all the poor reviews, that's my therapy. These appalling reviews are my therapy, because then I realise it's not just me. There was something about workplace bullying. Does that surprise you? No, of course not. Speaking as someone who is made violently sick from the stress of dealing with the notorious late Mrs. Joyce, I know you shouldn't speak ill of the dead. Yeah, right. Well, you should hear what the lady at the beautician said about her. My sister was bullied by her. The lady there's one of the women that sometimes waxes me was bullied by her. And would you believe, Lisette, who works in that psychiatric hellhole, said, oh, I heard she could be a bitch. I used to clean for her. Yeah, I worked hard as a carer, and that woman made me physically sick. And can you imagine working with Mr. Holden or this retired matron landlady? Oh my gosh. Well, that is why I've lost blood. This landlady told me she worked at the Princess Royal Hospital or something or other in Brighton. They were hiding the back door keys. I was telling that I'm not going to say which law firm I've gone to. I'm being very careful what I say. But the solicitor, I've got to have money in the account. And I've spent thousands of pounds on these hotels. And as you know, this hotel, as I said, it was on GB News for illegal immigrants. So I want Nick Tanconi needs to hear about this. So anyway, so just to wrap this up, so yeah, so I've been driven nuts by the GP practice. I've rung the Solicitors Regulation Authority, but before I rang the Solicitors Regulation Authority, I need to lie down. I popped to the MP office, and it's very strange the way this boy opens the door. He opens it like this so that I can. It's like he's afraid. And there's another weird thing. I mean, I've got to be. I don't want to overthink here, but the way Dr. Caro, the way the receptionist said to me, Dr. Caro was just checking that I was all right. Yeah, I'm trying not to overthink here, but if you know where I'm going with this one. Um, but anyway, I've forgotten the name of. I won't say his name, but the young lad. He looked like he was still at school, and I don't mean that rudely. But the boy, he's opened the door to me at the MP office before, but he only opens it so far. Maybe it's an anxiety thing, but they leave you on the door. I said, look, I am hiding so much anger. I said, my voice messages, you've, I said, I've been lied to. I've been left on the doorstep before. There's been a girl who's answered the intercom, and then she's left me on the doorstep and she's gone straight home. Where are their brains? This is the MP office. I told you in this months ago. And he said, oh, who did that to you? And he hasn't got back to me since March. I've been emailing, I've been leaving voice messages. Today I go down there and the boy says to me, I will get Ewan to ring you today. Haven't had a phone call from him. And Ewan, if you're watching, if you do get to see this, you apologise to me for how I'd been treated. Did you ever ring Mr. Holden like you said you would 3 months ago for a third time? Because that then brings me to my phone call with the Solicitors Regulation Authority. Because they're saying, wait for it, you couldn't make this shit up if you tried. They're saying it's like the ombudsmans. They're a joke. They are an absolute joke. They're saying to me that Mr. Holden said he's acting like a little boy now. He's a tyrant, and this is what tyrants are like. I know because my sister is one of them. And she's going to end up like this landlady if she's not careful, because my eldest sister is a landlady, and she's the reason behind a lot of my trauma, which is why she's tried to block me from having contact with my mother and my mother's best friend, would be in their late 80s, and Iris is 90, but she's in poor health. But she was disgusted with my sisters, and my mum and Iris really thought well of me. They also truly believed that Adamant had knocked on the door for me. I was like, yeah. And Iris said to me, you should have seen your mother going mad with the toilet brush. She got some homemade jelly. She really believed that Adamant had come round to visit me. This was over 20 years ago, so this is before he became famous again. Have you noticed, by the way, how Adamant is looking younger and younger? I hope he hasn't been taking drinking blood. No, I'm being serious. This is what they do. The Freemasons, the vampires, they do this really does go on. They drink blood to make themselves more youthful. And he wrote to me about his demons. And he looks younger now than he did over 20 years ago. He's in better shape now. He looks younger now in his 70s. Very strange that. But he worships Baphomet, you see. So, got to pray for Stuart Goddard, because that's the man. He wrote to me as Stuart Goddard about his demons. And Mark Devlin said he's an MK Ultra victim. So, Alice Victoria Scott, if you're watching, if your friend is watching this, it is disturbing what Bryony McCarthy is saying. Yes, it is. It's disturbing what Mark Devlin is saying. You're either awake or you're not. Anyway, you either take the truth or not. My mum and Iris, they're like two mothers to me, and I know Iris is in poor health, and I want to do something, but I don't want to get into trouble because my sisters are dangerous. My sisters are dangerous. They're like they're behaving like these demented tenants that told me they hated each other. The school teacher and the elderly man told me they hated each other, and then they started behaving all nasty and hiding the back door keys. And anyway, the law firm told me that they do get people like me coming to them. So it's not, they're like, they look for their targets. It's taught me something about people though, that the ones that you expect them, school teacher and elderly people, to have decorum, like the elderly landlady. And I've never known anything like it. But it's like, so it's like this solicitor. So Mr. Holden, he's become like a little boy, because obviously he's probably a bit scared, because he said, "What do you mean you've reported me to the Solicitors Regulation Authority?" I said, "Why do you think?" I said, I said, Mr. I said, "You and Morrison intervened for a second time," and I said, you were shouting down the phone at me that you didn't care if the Prime Minister was phoning you, and to go away." And he said, "You're not my client," and he just kept hanging up on me. Now the Solicitors Regulation Authority are saying that Mr. Holden is saying that I didn't instruct him. How can you instruct someone who has told you in no one word for word to go away? And I don't care if the Prime Minister is. He denies that he slammed the door in my face. Okay, maybe I slightly exaggerated. Darren was with me. He didn't slam it, but he abruptly said, "Not, what are you doing here? Not today." Like the Basil Fawlty of, it's just like that demented Scottish night porter who was sacked after a quarter of a century of people complaining about him. It took a quarter of a century for that man to be sacked for turning up drunk. Even when they rebadged it as SDR Living, "Oh, we have staff trained." Go and have a look at the SDR Living website. Go and have a look for yourself. SDR Living. It looks lovely. There's a waterfall. There's a kingfisher. You think, "Oh yes, You'll get support 24/7. There are staff trained to deal with complex needs 24/7. They couldn't even handle the death of a parent without getting the managing director to lock me out. That is what Mr. Holden was going to help me make a subsequent claim against the council for doing this to me. And Andy Camfield, the Lansdowne Hotel manager, said we get complaints about that place all the time, and then he's on the ITV news because my eldest sister's friend was defrauded by him. She was on the ITV news, and he's in prison now. You could not make it up if you tried. I was locked out in my nightwear. I stabbed myself through the arm with a 6-inch knife in this hotel that was on GB News for illegal immigrants. Oh my gosh, Bryony's speaking the truth. Oh God, it's terrifying. Yes, I'm doing this for your children and your children's children. Just grow a pair. You wonder why I'm a spinster, Alice. You wonder why I'm an old spinster. Find me a man who will do what I'm doing, and then maybe I'll get married. Maybe then I'll get married. But maybe that female police officer was right when she said I need to be the man in the relationship. But I'm not about to go and get a penis sewn onto me. I'm not going to identify as a man, no, because I don't want to be a man. I'm a woman. I need a man to be a man. I'll be the woman. I don't want to be the man in the relationship. So, Alice Victoria Scott, who's in contempt of court, who's happy to go to prison for what she did to me. I'm very happy. Thank you for your libelous, vicious, demented statement. I don't work for Southdown Housing Association. You couldn't pay me £1 million to work for people who exploit the vulnerable. And I'm very happy to be a spinster. Because I saw how my generation were behaving. When I was still at school, I thought to myself, my generation, nah, I can't I can't see any of them growing into men. And I know that sounds awful and probably very sexist, but it's true. I know that it's not always about age. My mother actually, I was surprised that my mother married a man who was 12 years younger than her, but she said he was very, very mature, very good to begin with as a father, as a first time father. But, and this is the big but, it's the issues behind it. Anyway, that's what I'm going to say. It's not about age. It's not about age. Everyone's in a different place with everything. And I've got so much knowledge under my belt. As Darren said, knowledge is power. Yes, it is. But you know, this thing about I don't know whether to. I'm in a catch-22 that Darren has left me in. He hasn't texted me happy birthday. I've been crying today because of all these demented people and people not doing anything at all. I have to pay a few £1,000s if I need someone to do one tiny thing for me. And yet, Darren's Christian friends have abused me. His friend who works at the food bank, Darren shouted at me, screamed at me, told me to prosecute him. And I have to report this as emotional abuse. I'm hurting. Not even a happy birthday. I've got gifts for him. I've given my heart. I've given every part of me. I've given myself to Darren. I've given all of myself. to him all of myself. So I don't understand why they're doing a Bible study and not even a happy birthday text. Oh, he texted me on my birthday, yeah, to say the same thing that he'd been taking the piss basically for months on end. He'd been texting me saying, "Oh, I've got a headache. I can't get out. Sorry, I've got to do my washing. Oh, my sleep. I'm not well. I'm not well. I'm not well." And the whole time, according to a couple of people, he has been out. I won't say he's been seen because I don't want people to know. He's doing a Bible study in the pub with Charlie. Where's my birthday text? I've got gifts for him. And I'm not like a shallow woman who buys electrical gifts, expensive gifts. Ugh, you know, technology and all that sort of thing. No, I've, I put thought, I put my heart. And no, I'm not talking about the fart extinguisher, which is a joke between me and Darren. Um, no, I'm talking about sentimental thought. And anyway, but that's a personal thing between me and Darren. That I'm all I'm saying is I have really, I'd really, I even if I get the justice, with this landlady, this evil landlady, even if I pay for this private solicitor that I'm seeing, even if I get the justice, I'd rather die that than than to be abused. I bumped into a woman walking up to this hotel, and I won't say her name, but she's very vulnerable. She's in her 60s, and I'll be very careful how I say this because you've got to be very sensitive and very careful. But she's got OCD, and she's in her 60s, and she's had adult social care come. She says, "Oh, I've got my problems. I've got my problems." And I'm not making fun of her, but adult social care have come out to her, and she said they pester me. I tell them to leave me alone. I want them to leave me alone. These people have come out to me. And the thing is, I think she won't tell me, but I think she's got a clutter hoarding problem that is acute, but she hasn't actually told me, but she's alluded to it. And it's because she said to me, "What is it, Bryony, that you actually need help with?" I said I have articulated my needs since my late mother sold the house. I've asked for help. In fact, actually, the next time I see her, I will find a way to say to her very gently, with all due respect, so and so, adult social care have come round to you, offering you help, and I think it's for something that I need help with. Because I did say to her, well, mediation. I didn't actually say to her hoarding and clutter. It's not actually hoarding, it's more clutter, it's OCD clutter. But this is not rubbish. These are my valuables. This is where my disability has been exploited. And this is something that Ewan Morrison took notes of. He's supposed to have forwarded this to adult social care. Because I cannot get anybody to do anything. The number, nothing's fit for purpose. It's always I can't, I can't, I can't. They're always telling you what they can't do. No one tells you what they can do. It's pathetic. It is absolutely pathetic. Now, I said to the Swan advocate who used to work for Power, Power doesn't exist now. I said, I understand it's not your fault because she wants to help me, but she was saying, I can't, I can't, I can't. I said, look, I get it. It's not your fault. If you'd made up the rules, then I'd be angry at you. She said, I'll talk to my boss and I'll see what. And I'm like, I'm not being funny, but I said, what is the point of an advocate if they can't advocate for you? It is absolutely insane. Now, postcode lottery or no postcode lottery, I don't know if this goes on anywhere else, but down here in Eastbourne, everyone says the same thing. Someone said to me years ago, in London, there are less services, but you get the help. Down here in Eastbourne, they've got so many charities, so many support services. You just got someone saying, "Oh, we're not a crisis. We're not a crisis. Goodbye." And she terminated the call on me, and nobody's taking notes proper. And I think it's all by design. Think about it. No, I'm not being funny. Think about it. You've got a Freemason lodge. This is like Illuminati by the sea. The guy who works at Eastbourne Library said to me, have you noticed? I said, yes. There's a photograph of a child doing the 666 hand gesture on a big photograph outside the camera shop, and there have been some very frightening things happening in this town. And I know because I met a victim of human trafficking. And it involved some kind of a weird sex trafficking local ring. I don't know. You see, the seaside postcard image is a front. Whether it's true or not, what Alan said to me, Alan, whose father was a diplomat, who stopped a guy called Pete Townsend from marrying Princess Margaret. He told me that a group of women were found tied up in the basement under the model shop. It's not a model shop anymore. It's like, oh God, I don't know. But I know because I met an ex prostitute turned Jehovah's Witness, and she was crying to me, saying that an owner of a letting agent or an estate agent was part of a ring that a sex ring that had filmed her having sex with animals. And when she was when people are telling you these things, especially in the psychiatric hellhole, well, even outside of there, you're in a disassociative state. I mean, I well, you have to be, don't you? It's like the South African woman who all that satanic stuff. I don't even know what to believe anymore. The thing about eating babies and stuff. I don't know. I mean, I find it hard to believe anything. I can't even cope. This is why I'm not like other women. I cannot cope with a man hurting me. Now, my mother once said to me, well, maybe you shouldn't have a relationship then if you can't handle being hurt. No, 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 I have to kill myself. I can't handle being. I can't handle. I said no one will do this to me again. When Darren came along, and I said, and I mean what I say. I said Darren's not like other men, and I know how that's going to sound. Oh my gosh, the number of women out there who will say, if I had a penny for every time I've heard that, I'd be a millionaire. No, Darren really isn't like other men, because I wouldn't be with him otherwise. There's got to be something about that person, something special. I'm not someone, without being too personal, I don't think about sexual, um, when I know the younger you are, you might do, but um, it's, I mean, obviously I'm attracted to Darren, yeah, but in order for me to be attracted to someone, especially since I'd met Darren, there's got to be something about that person, not visually, the looks. A person can become physically attractive once you realize that they've got what you need within, right? I don't know how to put it into words because I know men think about, I know men they go for the visual, whereas women look for something much, much deeper, generally speaking. And for me, I mean, obviously, with someone like Adamant, well, it was looks based, wasn't it? Um, well, that's being a rock star, and then you go for, well, what's he like overall? What star sign are you? Yeah, and I've rebuked all of that. But as it goes, Darren and Adamant and myself, we are the most compatible signs in the zodiac. But yeah, I've rebuked all of that. And I used to go much, much deeper than, I used to go into the numerology of birthdays, so, which is very Masonic and satanic and occultic. I had the book of birthdays. I used to go, it all starts when you're an innocent 11-year-old and the angel of light, Lucifer, draws you in. Darren drew me away from that, you see? So it's spiritual. There's something very deep with Darren because because the Green Man thing, he saw my disability, he walked into my, and then he went, "This is not good." And I used to laugh about it. I still do. Because I was still in the stages of like being like a teenager kind of thing. I felt like saying, "Now you're going to annoy me. I like all my satanic pagan stuff." I didn't say that to Darren, but that's the mindset that I had. But then I thought, no, actually, what is it about this thing? Because Darren's intelligence, he's deep. He was like me at school. He put his hand up to ask questions. He was the outsider like me. We ask questions. You know, the teachers don't like us because we question things, and that's what you're meant to do as a child. The daydream. I was a daydreamer. I heard outside the window. This is boring. Um, well, why is that like that? Now, Darren didn't go along with the programming in his church. Now, initially, I thought, has he upset people in his church? No, he hasn't. He's actually questioned things. And he's actually, by questioning things, because initially I was like, oh, he must have upset people in the church group because they were all like, no, 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 it's okay to go along with this programming. And this was before I'd done all the research. We went on this journey together by accident. I'd never had a laptop. I got my first laptop when Darren was just coming into my. We already knew each other to say hello to, but we'd never actually really talked to each other, and that's how it all starts. And then all this information became available to me. It's like, oh my gosh, I've done satanic rituals. And I didn't even realize it as a child. I did a Masonic initiation into brownie guides. I There's all this pagan stuff in the Catholic Church. There's all these false teachings, and Darren has done the right thing. Whereas I used to be programmed to the Christian church. Had I still been into adamant but gone to a Christian church and observed Darren, I would have been like, oh, he's annoying, he is. And I would have carried on in ignorance with these pagan satanic things that will only take you to hell. Because a lot of Christians, if if they're not careful, they will go to hell because they're just going along with a lot of false teachings and all kinds of nonsense that's going on right now, and prophecies are being filled right now. We are living in the end times. I can't actually believe, Yeshua said, there will come a time when man will not listen to sound doctrine. And I've seen these YouTube videos of drag queens almost dressed with a dog collar, and they're making up their own uh Bible stuff. It really is the abominations. All this, it's like, what the hell, you know? I mean, but there's nothing new under the sun. It's always been there since the beginning. Before and after the floods, it was well, you know, obviously Yahweh brought the floods because there was so much evil and wickedness in the earth. He had to wipe it out. Um, but after the floods, there was still, look at all the paganism in the church. I mean, even the victim of satanic ritual abuse in Australia, what's her name? Fiona Barnett was saying how the marble, I can never walk into a church again because I feel physically sick. The reason why we have marble altars is because the Satanists, the Freemasons, have used it to sacrifice children, and it's easy to mop up blood. They sacrifice human beings on marble because it's easy to, and it's like, what? And that eagle thing that you when I've read a Bible from the eagle thing, that's a not an eagle, it's a phoenix, I think, which is all pagan. And like Fiona said, what the hell has that got to do with the Bible? um Yeah, loads of things. And of course, the obvious thing, which is you're not supposed to pray to the dead because that is divination. That's praying to familiar spirits. The dead are not conscious. And yet, what do? We were brought up to pray to saints. And that's, I was with my mother when she bought the statue of Mary because I was brought up as a Catholic. And she's basically that's basically an idol. So Bronya, get rid of that statue of Mary because that's Ishtar or Esther. Esther, which is used for Easter. She's a goddess who had sex with her son. Ugh. Incest paedophile goddess, and that's what Easter is about. And she's been merged with the mother of our Saviour, who has absolutely no significance. Miriam was her name, not Mary. Her Hebrew name was Miriam, and she gave birth to Yeshua, our Saviour. But she wasn't some deity. They've merged paganism. You need to, if you do the research, look behind, look, there's so much nonsense behind the Vatican. But I've watched so many videos I can't even remember, because over the past 10 years I'd absorbed so much information, and I'd also had a mental breakdown because I wasn't getting help with my clutter and years of bereavement. So I'm a survivor, because the elite, the ones running the show, the shit show, pardon my language, uh, want me to end up an alcoholic on drugs, out there, dead, gone, kaput, bye bye. And as John Alexander Patterson said of the Royal Commission, he said, don't kill yourself, because that is what they want. So, yes, Alice Victoria Scott's friend, what I'm saying is very disturbing. You'd better believe it. So, there we go, anyway. So Mr. Holden is going to probably keep on exploiting the vulnerable. He said, according to the Solicitors' Regulation Authority, that I didn't instruct him. And as I said to the man on the phone today, and he's told me what to put in an email as a response, and I'm going to follow that up. I basically word it as, I'm not happy with the response and the outcome of the complaint. Escalate the matter to the line manager of the case officer, and I'm basically going to say everything. And I think you and Morrison should also say, yeah, well, I intervened 3 times, but then he didn't get back to me. So yeah, so I just need to tell this. Yeah, I need to basically. Oh God, oh, I just, I just need to say, yeah. How can I instruct someone who is hung up on me, and I've rung them back and they've told me to go away? I don't care if the Prime Minister is phoning me. Those were his exact words to me. And he's lied and told them, oh, she didn't instruct me. He's an obnoxious, very, very nasty, potentially dangerous man, just like the landlady. But he's a solicitor. I don't know. Well, as I said, there's a landlady's review who said, I don't know how this man has managed to keep the firm going with the way he treats his clients. But anyway, there we go. So, I am an amazing woman. I stay humble, Abby Yahweh. But I was crying. Yeah, I've been crying. I just don't really. I'm trying to get. You know, I'm glad that Darren is praying, doing a Bible study with Charlie, but at the same time, this is where I have to disassociate, because the thing is, where do you have to have boundaries? I have to have boundaries. Abuse is abuse, and the thing is, we're both extremely emotional people, and even if he's never, yeah, I don't want to say anything too personal about him. See, I'm very protective of Darren. I'm very protective of him. I'm also very angry at him, and maybe there's a bit of that's part of what codependency is. You protect the one that you love, but you're also bloody angry at them. Like, how dare you do a Bible study and not even check up on me and say happy birthday? Uh, I have to be very careful though, because we're all human beings, we're all sinners. And the thing is, that's what keeps me going is Darren is encouraging me to put it all up there. And that's what I'm doing. I'm putting it all in the court of the shall I am. But I honestly, I'm not like other women. I cannot deal with hurt and pain. It doesn't matter how many videos I watch. I'm I've got emotional intelligence. I'm extremely intelligent and clued up with emotions and mental health and psychology and all of that. I've got a wealth of knowledge. But, but, and this is the big but in capitals that is screaming out. I cannot cope with the idea that Darren could have done evil to me and abused me because I mean it. I would go that's it because this is also on a if he had been any other man, then yeah. But there is something much deeper with Darren, and I'm not trying to sound. I know all women will say the same thing, but I mean it. He is not like other men because I would not have given myself to this. No way, no way. I'd already been hurt, been abused by someone who came to my mother's funeral, who threw me out of his house, who name called, just like that. And I said, and I promised myself, no one, no one. I won't be around any man. The only reason why I went back to that, guys, I don't, you know how it is. Sometimes you do something and you don't know why you're doing it. You're almost in a mind control state. The creep that attempted rape on me, I went back to his flat. I it was some creep in Weatherspoons. He just sat down with me, and I just didn't. You know when you do something but you don't want to do it. You know what I mean? Um, but when you say no and someone forces themselves on you, and they left bruises all over my body, and a jury saw the photographs, and he went straight to prison, 10 years on a sex offenders register. But I also learnt something about myself and that incident because something came over me. This I was all nicey, and then all of a sudden I flipped like a monster, and he was scared of me. And that's something about narcissists and psychopaths is they think they've got their prey. Their prey has been all nice, and then all of a sudden, how dare you do that to me? And he was scared of me. He was scared. So yeah, so that cretin that went to prison, it was very strange. The whole thing was strange because I was laughing and getting excited about it because I found out how strong I was. I was also crying, of course. That judge was lovely though. But yeah, no, I don't like being around people at the best of times. So for me to allow Darren to come, he's so gentle and so, and I know because you know the spirit behind that person. So this goes much deeper than, oh, he's just a boyfriend that you've loved. No, this is on a much deeper spiritual level. When I called him the devil, I didn't want to believe what I was saying. I wanted him to, when he said to me, "Are you crazy?" That's what I wanted him to say. Are you crazy? I don't want it to be, oh my gosh, he really is the devil gaslighting me. No, I need to hear him say, "Are you crazy? You're just overthinking." Okay. Well, then why was I dealing with those nutters at Rylestone Road? How come that nutter just happened to use the same words that Darren has used? Maybe it is a coincidence, but it'd be a bloody, I just thought it was very odd that that weirdo on drugs said he hasn't got a bad bone in his body, and I thought, you don't know Darren. Why are you saying exactly what his father said to me? I haven't seen his parents for 9 years. This is a complete stranger in a house share. And you see, the thing is, when you've got people out there, this is going to sound like Jeremy Kyle, because this is what Jeremy Kyle used to say. And he's a Freemason. This is when I used to think Jeremy Kyle was a nice man, many, many moons ago, when I thought he was a good man, and that the Jeremy Kyle show helps people, not bear baiting, no. He used to say to people, stop listening to other people everywhere else. Now that's what I'm doing, because I've had a lot of people say to me, like Leslie and Ray, the food bank advocates, they said, isn't he a good man? Isn't Darren a good? He's a good boy, isn't he? And then the next minute they're saying, well, Bryony, we thought he was abusing you. We've never known anyone to be banned from the psychiatric unit. I don't think you should see Darren again. And then I'm crying. I burst into tears. And then she's saying to me, now stop that. And I thought, hang on a minute. This is someone who is acknowledged. She's the only person to acknowledge my OCD, who was disgusted with how the psychiatric unit were treating me. She said, I don't know how they can sleep at night. And she said to me that that my issues were far more complex, the trauma, when I told her about my mother and my father and my eldest sister, and the violence, and how I had nightmares that I was either murdering my mother or my eldest sister. And she said, that is extreme trauma. It's just such a shame that people have not. Oh, there's been no consistency. It's all been this, that, and the other. So I've gotten to a point where I'm so exhausted, so wiped out, that I have just got to look after my health, because this is so serious. You have to get rest. You have to pray, rest, pray. Make sure you're eating. Make sure you. So already it's 1 o'clock in the morning, for example. So it's 1 o'clock in the morning. I should have gone to sleep, and I've been speaking for an hour and a half. So it's very important. You just leave it all to Abba, because I realise now how easy it is for the enemy to suck you in, and why there are so many marriages that end that didn't have to end. From what I'm hearing, and from what I now have learned through my experiences, marriages don't have to end. They often end even when one of the partners is one of the spouses is violent. You can get the help, and it's advised. There's a reason why Abba Yahweh does not bless. He does not like a divorce. Life is hard. We're supposed to suffer it. When you see what happened, I have had to allow myself to feel the trauma, and to feel that raw pain without the use of drugs and alcohol. Oh, it's like someone getting a knife. And even earlier today, Darren's friend, I couldn't even get the words out when he said to me, I did ring Darren. He's a man of a few words, I can see that. he just said that he switched his phone off, and I thought, yeah, we've already established that. Nothing else? Nothing. No, nothing. So I, I haven't even cried about it since walking away. Um, no, no, how is she? No, happy birthday, nothing. And I said, so you didn't even, so that's it. Well, so anyway, um, yeah, so I have to, I need the dissociative state. Right, that's it. I've been speaking for an hour and a half, and it's going to take forever to upload this video anyway. Anyway, there we go. It's all very, very deep, all this stuff, and I just hope that Helen, if you see this, just hope you understand, it's all very, very, when you're on your own with all of this, how no one's ever gonna. I appreciate that birthday card, but um, I cried my eyes out when I got news my father had died at the SDR living flat. It's on YouTube. There's a YouTube video, hundreds of videos back, of me crying my eyes out in the SDR living flat. How is it? This is when I got news my father had died. How is it they could still lock me out of that flat? You tell me. When you've got a Scottish night porter saying, "You're seeing a mental health nurse." Yeah, and then the Facebook page, survivors of the Saffron Linwood page, the petition was ignored. No one gives a damn. This is just it. Nobody gives a damn. And this is why I keep away from people. You need to earn that trust from me. I'm so broken. I really, I just don't like the hypocrisy. Don't if you're gonna if you're just gonna preach for the sake of feeling like you're in control, then you're doing the devil's work. If that's why you're doing it. Not even a happy birthday text. Anyway, that's me done. I'm gonna leave it at that now.